Please welcome into the show the dynamic duo of Dan and Michael Geltrude. All right, Michael, I'm going to go to you because of the youth. Are you overall positive or negative? And what are your views on what this can do for society real quickly?
Hi, Scott. Overall, I'm positive when it comes to AI and this type of technology. I think it's the most powerful technology that's ever been created. And you know the phrase, with great power comes great responsibility. But unfortunately, right now, we're living in the Wild West. We've never seen anything like this before. A technology that can learn on its own 24/7, 365. This is a big responsibility, and it looks like some of the tech companies are really at the forefront trying to protect U.S. citizens, which is really a great thing. Altman, when he testified on the Hill, even recommended issuing licenses in order to develop this AI technology. And honestly, I think it's a good thing.
All right, well, that means that you too probably know about the dangers and the abuses. Let's go over to Dan, your father. Dan, from my point of view, I still think humans have value. I mean, if the door comes off the hinges, AI is not going to be able to rehang that door. And there's some other things about the things that drive human interaction, right? Power. People do things for power. People do things for ego. People do things for love, right? A lot of those things aren't going to be able to be recreated maybe just yet. Could this be the next internet revolution that really helps the economy, spurs the economy on? Because if you remember, when Clinton was in office, he was kind of at the forefront of that, and that's the last time we had balanced books.
I don't know the answer to that, Scott, and no one does. But I'll tell you this, and I believe we're pretty certain here. AI is changing the rules of the game. So there's no question about the fact that everything that we know of right now and what our daily lives are like, whether it's personal or whether it's business, all of that is going to change. So the question to me is not necessarily, is this going to replace humans? It's how are humans going to adapt to be able to use AI, right? So we may be in a reverse situation to say, well, AI is leading. We have to figure out how we fit into this as opposed to the other way around.
Yeah, because like I said in the monologue, the scare stories are there, and a lot of folks are worried about losing their jobs. But again, I think that there's going to be a place for everybody. And I like, Dan, or going back to you, Michael, I like the idea of what you said about licenses. I mean, there's going to be something there that would be something that they can put guardrails on. But here's my biggest problem, though, is that the best way it was explained to me is if a stadium full of people, if one person learns something new in that stadium, it automatically is given to everybody else at that moment in time. That's a basic level of understanding when it comes to AI, right? One thing learning for everybody all the time, 24/7, like you said. But even that is probably only 1 or 2% of what it does. So how is Congress going to regulate something that they have no idea what it's capable of? I think that's really hard to do.
Unfortunately, there's no good answer to that, as you said. I think Congress is still trying to wrap its head around social media and cryptocurrency. And from one Sam to the other, if we're talking about Sam Bankman-Fried, when you give people a lot of power, you also need checks and balances to avoid the downside. I think ultimately, as I mentioned, this technology is a good thing, but we really need to be cautious of where it's going. It's certainly going to have an impact on jobs, but overall, I see our lives getting better because this technology has already been integrated into our everyday lives. If you've shopped on Amazon or any other e-commerce platform recently, they're recommending products that you may like. And the reason they're doing that is they're utilizing artificial intelligence to learn from your past purchases, which gives them a lot of power. They're utilizing your data. And Congress at the start of the 2000s had a huge opportunity with the internet to protect privacy and the U.S. citizens, and they didn't do a good enough job. And now they're being given a second chance, and they really need to take advantage of it.
All right, I'm going to go over to your father one last time. So, Dan, you're an accountant. How could this change the accounting world? I mean, is it something that's going to ultimately take your job? I know your son's got CPA underneath him. Is that a bad call at this early stage? I mean, where is accounting going to go? Where are these jobs in the financial sector go? White-collar jobs.
You know, Scott, I heard a quote that said AI is not going to replace accountants, but accountants that use AI are going to replace accountants that don't use AI. And I think that's spot on, not just for the accounting profession, but across the board. So my words of wisdom, advice to everyone: do not ignore AI, embrace it, figure out how to use it, and save your job.
Yeah, and that's great advice. I'm going to end on that for a second. But great advice. When I was on the exchange trading open outcry, it seems crazy now, right? But the folks that didn't put their head in the sand and embrace the new technologies are still in the business, and they're still doing well when they embraced that change. But with the guys that I knew that were not going to learn, didn't want to know, they were like a mule in the sand. They didn't last very long, and you can get out of off an airplane at O'Hare, and a lot of them are unfortunately driving cabs nowadays because they just didn't want to embrace the change. So, thank you guys for coming on. That's awesome stuff. Somebody young.